There is this very specific, very annoying kind of burnout that doesn't actually come from working 80 hours a week. It comes from waiting.
Oh, yeah. The waiting game.
Yeah.
Like waiting for the text back
Yeah.
or the job offer.
Exactly. It's that feeling where you are just grinding for a result. You're frantically swiping on dating apps or you're refreshing your banking app, staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., wondering why things just aren't moving.
It's exhausting.
It really is. It's the sensation of pushing against a brick wall. You feel like you're doing all the quote-unquote right things logically, but the results just aren't showing up.
Right. It is the classic paradox of effort.
Yeah.
I mean, in the physical world, if you push a chair, it moves across the room, cause and effect.
Yeah.
But when it comes to these bigger life goals, relationships, career leaps, financial shifts.
It feels like the harder you push, the faster the goal runs away from you.
Exactly. Which brings us to the core of what we are unpacking today.
Yes, and that frustration is exactly where we're starting. We're taking a stack of sources today, articles, lectures, some pretty dense psychological theory, and doing a deep dive into the law of assumption. And I want to be super clear right off the bat because I know exactly how this sounds. This isn't just, think happy thoughts and wait for a check in the mail.
No, absolutely not. If it were that easy, literally everyone would be doing it. The source material we're looking at today, which draws really heavily on the teachings of Neville Goddard, frames this concept very differently. It describes the law of assumption as a method of psychological dominance over your internal reality.
I really love that phrase, psychological dominance. It sounds tactical, almost like a siege.
Well, it is a siege, but it's a siege on your own subconscious mind.
Yeah.
The central thesis here is going to sound a bit radical to some listeners, so brace yourself.
Go for it.
The text argues that the world does not respond to what you want. It just doesn't. It doesn't care about your wish list, your tears, or how much you think you deserve something. It responds strictly and almost mathematically to who you assume yourself to be.
Which is a genuinely terrifying thought if you're walking around assuming you're unlucky or broke or unlovable.
It is terrifying, but that is also exactly where the power lies. If reality is just a feedback loop of your assumptions, then you don't need to go out and change the world with a hammer. You just need to change the assumption.
So today we are going to unpack the actual mechanics of this. We've got some fascinating sections on the specific person phenomenon, the specific nighttime techniques regarding brainwaves, and the very controversial idea of ignoring the 3D.
Which is definitely the hardest part for most people, without a doubt.
Oh, totally. But let's start with the core mechanism. The text distinguishes really heavily between desire and identity. Why is that distinction so fatal to most people's goals?
Because they are energetic opposites. Think about it. To desire something implies, by definition, that you do not have it. If I say I want to be wealthy or I want to be in a relationship, I am literally reinforcing the fact that I am currently not those things.
Right.
The source material calls this the difference between thinking of the end and thinking from the end.
Okay, let's break that down for the listener. Thinking of versus thinking from.
Sure. If you are thinking of a promotion, you are looking at it like a destination way off in the distance. You're the person seeking the job. You are separate from it. But if you think from the end, you are mentally occupying the state of the person who already has the promotion. You are looking at the world through the eyes of someone who is already the manager.
So it's the difference between daydreaming about a vacation while sitting at your miserable office desk versus the feeling of actually sitting in the airport lounge with your boarding pass in your hand?
Precisely. The text argues that the subconscious mind is non-judgmental and, frankly, it's a bit blind. It cannot distinguish between physical reality and an intensely imagined internal state. If you persist in the feeling of having it, the subconscious accepts it as fact.
And once it accepts it as fact, it goes to work reorganizing your reality to match it. That's the mirror analogy the guide uses, right?
Yes, the mirror analogy is perfect. Think of reality as a giant mirror. If you stand in front of the mirror and you're frowning, you can't reach out and force the reflection to smile. You have to smile first. The mirror has no choice but to reflect what is in front of it.
But most of us are basically screaming at the mirror, demanding it smile so that we can finally be happy.
Exactly. We say, I'll feel secure when I get the money. But the law of assumption says, no, you must feel secure to get the money. It's a total inversion of cause and effect.
Which perfectly explains why affirming from lack is such a trap. The text points out phrases we use all the time, like, I hope this works, or maybe he'll call, or I'm trying to get better.
Oh, those are kill switches. Saying I hope is just a confession of doubt. It tells your subconscious, I don't have this, and honestly, I probably won't. The shift the text demands is moving to radical declarations of normalcy. Things like, of course it worked. It is done. This is who I am now.
It reminds me of the confidence of ordering something on Amazon. You hit buy now, and you don't sit there pacing the room wondering if the warehouse is actually going to pack the box. You just assume it's coming.
That's the exact state. And notice, it's not excitement. A lot of people mistake manifesting for high vibes or manic positivity. It's really not. It's certainty. It's the calm neutrality of knowing it's handled.
Okay, but getting to that level of calm certainty when your life is currently a mess, that's the trick. The guide actually breaks this down into actionable steps. Step 1 is defining the end.
And the key word here is clarity. Vague assumptions yield vague results. You can't just say, I want to be happy or I want to be rich.
Right. The source suggests constructing a very specific end scene. This is a short, imaginal act that implies the goal is already accomplished.
Right. And it has to be a scene that takes place after this success. If you're manifesting a marriage, you don't visualize the proposal. You visualize the 10th anniversary dinner. You visualize the normalcy of the ring on your finger. You go to the end.
I loved the example in the sources about the job hunt. It specifically says, don't visualize the interview, because that implies you're still trying to get the job.
Exactly. Visualize the manager shaking your hand and saying, welcome to the team. Or, better yet, visualize walking into your new office on a Tuesday morning, setting down your coffee and feeling bored.
Bored. That's interesting.
Yeah, boredom implies ownership.
Yeah.
You aren't vibrating with excitement over shoes you owned for 3 years. You just wear them. The text emphasizes that the subconscious is impressed by feeling, not just pictures. And the feeling shouldn't always be ecstatic joy. Often the feeling of relief or naturalness is much, much more powerful.
So we have the theory. We need to construct a scene that implies we already have the thing. But how do we actually imprint this on the brain? The source details 2 main protocols, the night technique and the day technique. Let's start with the night, because this seems to be the heavy hitter in the Goddard methodology.
This is definitely the flagship technique. Goddard called it SATS, which stands for state akin to sleep.
Sounds cozy.
It is, but it's highly functional. Neurologically speaking, as you drift off to sleep, your brain waves slow down from beta, which is your alert, thinking, stressed out state, down to alpha and eventually theta. In this theta state, the conscious mind's guard is down.
So the critical factor, that nagging voice that says, you're broke, this is stupid, this won't work, is basically asleep at the wheel.
Correct. The door to the subconscious is wide open. So the instruction is get into bed, relax your body, induce this drowsy state, and then you loop your short scene.
And the text is very specific about looping it, right? You don't just watch the movie once and say goodnight.
You loop it over and over, like a GIF on your phone. You feel the handshake, you hear the voice saying congratulations, and you loop it until it feels solid, until it feels like a memory.
And the goal is to actually fall asleep while looping it.
Ideally, yes. You want that to be the last impression on your mind before you check out for 8 hours. The source claims that whatever you carry into sleep, you gestate. If you fall asleep worrying about bills, you are marinating your subconscious in poverty for 8 solid hours.
Wow, that is a sobering thought. I think most of us fall asleep doom scrolling or replaying an argument from earlier in the day.
Which is exactly why most people wake up to the exact same life they had yesterday. You're priming your brain to look for more conflict or more lack. This technique is about breaking that cycle and seeding the new reality while you sleep.
Okay, so that handles the night. But we have to be awake for the other 16 hours. And this is where I feel like I usually sabotage myself. I can visualize perfectly at night, but then I wake up, check my phone, see no text, and immediately spiral into, well, it's not working.
You and everyone else. This is where the day technique comes in, which the text calls inner conversations, or maintaining a mental diet.
A mental diet. I like that phrasing.
Think about it. You wouldn't eat from a dumpster and expect to be healthy. But we let our inner monologue feast on absolute garbage all day long. Why is this taking so long? What if I fail? I look terrible today.
And the source argues that this inner chatter isn't just background noise, it's actively creative.
It is the blueprint of your future. Every single thought is a tiny assumption.
Yeah.
So the discipline, and it is a rigorous discipline, is to catch those thoughts. You essentially become the bouncer of your own mind.
So when the thought comes up like, he hasn't texted, he must hate me, what do? You can't just repress it, can you?
No, you don't repress it, you flip it. You rewrite the script in real time. You say, no, he's probably just busy, or better yet, he's thinking about what to say to me. You have to actively align the inner speech with the end goal.
It sounds exhausting, honestly, watching every single thought.
At first, yes, it is. It's like learning a new language. But eventually, the new thoughts become the default.
Huh?
You are literally retraining your brain's neural pathways to expect the best-case scenario instead of the worst.
But here is where we hit the biggest roadblock in the whole philosophy. The text calls it ignoring the 3D.
Ah, yes. The 3D, the physical reality, the world of our senses.
Right, because you are doing the work, you are looping your scene at night, you are flipping your thoughts during the day, and then you check your bank account and it's minus $50. Or you look at your relationship status and you're still very single. The text says to just ignore it. That sounds a bit delusional.
I'm glad you brought up the delusion aspect because that's the single biggest criticism of this philosophy. People ask, are you asking me to pretend the house isn't on fire? And the answer is no. You deal with the fire. You pay the bill. But, and this is the crucial distinction, you do not let the 3D dictate your internal state.
Okay, unpack that for us, because if my bank account is empty, I'm realistically going to feel internally stressed.
The source uses a brilliant concept here, the time lag. Think of physical reality like the stars in the night sky. Some of those stars actually died a million years ago, but their light is just reaching us now.
Okay, I follow.
Your current reality, your bank account, your job, your relationship status, is the light from a dead star. It is merely the manifestation of your past thoughts and your past assumptions. It's old news. It's already done.
Oh, wow. So if I react to it emotionally, I'm just keeping the dead star alive.
Exactly. If you look at the empty bank account and feel panic, you are reseeding the poverty for tomorrow. You are caught in a feedback loop. Ignoring the 3D means looking at the lack and saying, this is just an echo. My new reality is already created. It just hasn't arrived here yet.
That requires a level of stoicism that is pretty intense.
It's brazen impudence. That's the exact phrase Goddard uses. You have to be brazenly impudent in the face of contradictory evidence. You say, I don't care what it looks like right now. I know who I am.
Let's apply this to the specific scenarios the listeners are probably thinking about right now. The big one in this community is the SP, the specific person.
Yes, using the law of assumption to get a specific X back or a specific crush. It's extremely popular and, as you might guess, heavily debated.
It is. Some people say it's manipulative. They say you can't force someone to love you. But the source material frames it entirely differently. It says, stop trying to change them.
Right. Because in the law of assumption, everyone else is just a reflection of your self-concept. Goddard has this famous phrase, everyone is you pushed out.
Which is a pretty trippy concept when you first hear it.
It is, but practically it means people treat you exactly how you expect to be treated on a subconscious level. If you are chasing an SP and you feel desperate, unworthy, or like a second choice, that person will almost robotically reflect that unworthiness back to you. They will ignore you, not because they are mean, but because you are broadcasting a signal that says, ignore me.
So the fix isn't to text them a better paragraph or play mind games or wait 3 days to reply. The fix is to change your own identity.
Precisely. You have to assume the identity of the person who is already loved, chosen, and prioritized. You affirm, I am the prize. I am irreplaceable. And the wild thing is, when you genuinely shift that self-concept, the dynamic often flips entirely. The other person starts pursuing you.
Because you're no longer energetically pushing them away with your wanting.
You've stopped chasing. And when you stop chasing, you stop running. You just stand still in your conviction.
This same logic applies to career and money too, doesn't it?
100%. If you walk into a job interview thinking, I really hope they like me, I desperately need this, you reek of desperation. It comes off in your voice, your posture, your eye contact. But if you walk in with the assumption, I am an asset, they would be lucky to have me, my skills are rare, that changes your micro-expressions. It changes your tone. It changes how you negotiate your salary.
It's internal confidence that manifests as external authority.
And with money, it's shifting from, I can't afford this, to money flows to me easily. It's breaking the addiction to struggle. The source makes a really provocative point that many of us are actually addicted to the identity of the hard worker who struggles.
Oof, that hits close to home. We kind of wear the struggle like a badge of honor, don't we?
We do. But if you want the reality to change, you have to take that badge off. You have to assume the identity of someone for whom success is just easy and natural.
But let's be real for a second. Even if we do all this, we upgrade the identity, we loop the scenes, we flip the thoughts, we are still human, doubt is going to creep in. The source actually had a really refreshing take on doubt that I want to touch on.
I loved this part of the material. It doesn't say you have to be a robot with zero negative thoughts. It says don't fight the doubt.
Don't fight it, but don't feed it.
Right. When you fight a thought, you give it energy. You make it a monster. If a doubt comes up, like what if this doesn't work? You just observe it. You say, oh, there's that old fear again. And then you gently return your focus to your end scene.
It's very much like meditation. You don't beat yourself up for your mind wandering. You just gracefully come back to the breath. In this case, you come back to the wish fulfilled.
There's a great line in the text about this. It says, faith isn't the absence of doubt. Faith is continuing anyway. You persist in the assumption despite the doubt.
And this leads perfectly to what the guide calls the golden rule of manifesting. It's the paradox we started the deep dive with.
Manifest from inevitability, not desperation.
This is the Sabbath concept, right?
Yes. In the Bible, the Sabbath is a day of rest. But in the context of Neville Goddard's teaching, it's a psychological state. When you have successfully impressed the subconscious mind, you reach a point where you no longer feel the need to do anything. You stop checking. You stop forcing. You just relax.
Because you know it's done.
Think about waiting for a package you know is out for delivery. You aren't anxious. You aren't tracking the truck on your phone every 30 seconds. You're just going about your day. When you reach that state of internal doneness, that is usually when the physical manifestation actually hits.
It's almost like you have to let go of the strangled grip on the outcome just to let it in the door.
You create a vacuum. When you're desperate, your hands are full of anxiety. When you let go and trust, your hands are open to receive.
So pulling this all together for you listening, we aren't talking about magic tricks here. We are talking about a fundamental restructuring of self.
It's growing up, spiritually and psychologically. It's moving from being a passive victim of circumstance to the active architect of your life. But the blueprint isn't drawn with your hands, it's drawn with your mind.
Let's quickly recap the protocol so you can take this with you today. Step 1, clarity. Define the end scene. Make it sensory, make it specific, and make sure it implies fulfillment.
Step 2, the night technique. Use that drowsy theta state to loop your scene until it feels like a memory. Impress the subconscious.
Step 3, the mental diet. Watch your waking thoughts. Flip the script from lack to fulfillment in real time.
And finally, ignore the 3D. Do not let current circumstances dictate your internal truth. Be brazenly impudent.
It's a real challenge. It goes against how we are wired biologically, which is to constantly scan for and react to danger and scarcity.
It does. It requires immense effort. But the source asks a really great question. What is the cost of not doing it? The cost is staying exactly where you are right now.
That's the kicker. I want to leave you with a final thought from the source material that's really sticking with me. We spend so much of our lives making wish lists. I want the house, the partner, the salary. But remember the closing argument we discussed today. The world does not respond to what you want. It responds strictly to who you assume yourself to be.
That is the most crucial distinction of all. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. So the question isn't, what do I want? The question is, who am I? And are you brave enough to answer that question not based on your past, but based on your desired future?
That is a massive question to chew on. So here is my challenge to you, the listener. Test it. Be a scientist about your own life. Tonight, just try that night technique. Pick something small to start a free cup of coffee, a text from an old friend to find the end scene, and loop it for 5 to 10 seconds as you drift off to sleep. See what happens when you assume it's already yours.
Thanks for diving deep with us today.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next one.